What's up, everybody? This is Tanner Courtney, and welcome to the Coach Courtney Podcast. Today is a very special edition because it is the first episode, and I have with me an absolute American war hero legend, Patriot, prisoner, and survivor, Commander Henry James, Jim Bettinger. Jim was born in Philadelphia in 1945. He went on to become a naval flight officer flying F-4 Phantoms with the elite fighter squadron, the 143, the Puking Dogs, during the Vietnam War. Jim was captured and taken to the most notorious prisoner of war camp there is, the Hotel Hanoi, and spent more than 3 years there. Jim became a leader amongst prisoners. He kept the morale alive, and he resisted his captors with courage and resilience that earned him the Bronze Star with the Combat V, the Legion of Merit, and our deepest respect as a nation. After his release in 1973, Jim returned home to serve for another 16 years, retiring as a commander. And even in his retirement, he never stopped giving back. Like I said, he wrote this book called The Patriot, Prisoner, and Survivor, where he will dive deeper into the experiences that we've only scratched the surface with today. This will end up being a multiple part series because we have so much to talk about and there is so much more to hear from Jim. But if you're interested, after hearing today's episode, you can get his book called The Patriot, Prisoner, Survivor, and a link will be provided. But strap yourselves in, open those ears, open the heart, and listen to a man who survived 3+ years in the most notorious prisoner of war camp and also has lived an entire life of experience, Henry James Bettinger.
All right, Jim. Well, welcome back for our second time together. I really appreciate it. But today, the first topic I want to go over with you is the mission that we briefly spoke about earlier, and then the capture. So on November 22nd, 1969, could you walk us through the mission over Laos and the moment that your aircraft was hit and your immediate thoughts?
November 22nd, 1969, exactly 6 years after we lost President Kennedy by assassination. At 22nd, we were on an armed reconnaissance over Laos. We were carrying for the second day ever a magnetically fused 500-pound bombs that would serve to restrict and make people in the Ho Chi Minh think twice about driving a truck or a motorcycle by. Anything with metal in it sets them off. And I was with a pilot I've never flown with before, and he asked a lot of questions in the pre-brief about the parameters of dropping. If you didn't have the speed, then it wouldn't fuse and the bomb would be a dud. In any case, that meant that you had to do everything like you were dropping a regular bomb, get the parameter right, and all the pilot has to do is when I hit the normal drop point, he has to wait 1 potato, 2 potato, and then hit the pickle button. And so
Wow.
that was the plan, and we got weathered out. We couldn't go to the primary or the secondary. So we'd gone to the tertiary target, which is a bend in the river where there was a road and night traffic was coming down with a lot of ordnance to supply the war effort in South Vietnam. And they wanted us to put these 4 500-pound bombs drop so they would be around the road. So when the trucks came by at night, it'd go 1, 2, 3, magic 4, ping. So in any case, we never got to that point because FACT had marked the target with a Willie Pete, that's a phosphorus flare. So in any case, I saw it right away, but he was having a hard time seeing it, and I don't have it. So I started concentrating on, okay, it's coming up to your 2 o'clock. You see the bend in the river? Okay, come up to the 11 o'clock there. And then he pulled in. So we're inverted, and the idea is to come out at a 45-degree dive. And when we came out, we were at an 85-degree dive. That's like going straight down. And when you're sitting in the back seat a little higher above looking over the pilot's shoulder, all you see is the earth coming at you. So immediately I said, "You're Steve, pull out." And he said, "I've lost I've lost my horizontal stability. I think we're hit. I started reaching for the face curtain and I heard the first word. Man, I heard the first eject. I was pop out of there. And it was a big explosion because you're sitting on a canister, like a small artillery shell, and it's tied. There's a lanyard that's tied to the deck of the airplane, and then the other thing's tied to the like a grenade, the pin that starts the rocket. So when it goes up the thing, woo, it hits that lanyard, pin slows down, and then your rocket comes. That gives you the 0-0 capability. So in any case, I blacked out a little, and then I felt a little tug and then a big tug, and that brought the blood back to me. And I looked up, and there it was, International Flame Orange, white, International Flame Orange, white. And I said, oh, man, they got a billboard up here. Shoot over here. And then I heard this loud noise, and I'm looking down, and I'm seeing tracers. Several of them hit my parachute. So the sink rate of a parachute is faster than a plane in a 45-degree dive. So they were set for shooting at planes at 45-degree dive. They hadn't reset their mill setting. At the time, all I knew is I had awful big bullets and they were coming at me. And so they were coming from 3 different directions at me. And I said, oh my gosh. I said, I know what, the ammunition must be scarce out here. I'll pretend like I'm hit like they did in the movies that I saw as a kid. So the only thing I could think to do is go back to my training at high school at St. Peter's School. And I said, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And I got through the whole prayer, and I got through about half of it, and then I hit the ground. I had done everything like they teach you to do. It's in parachute, in ejection training and all. I got my radio out, I got hooked in, and the forward air controller says, "Attack from 11D, don't move. You're in the middle of a seed field." That means minefield. I wasn't there very long. They came to my chute, and I'm hiding under a fairly big bush, leaves over me, haven't moved. They came right by my bush. They cut part of the bush away, and I could see, they were so close, without my glasses, I could see the guy's toenail, and I never moved. They didn't see me. In any case, they're yelling back and forth, and suddenly a guy from up above yells, and the guy turns around. He's looking right at me and above me and yelling back at the guy. And then he must have seen the shape because the sun was behind the hill, starting to go. And in any case, I was in between the sun and the bush, and I were here, and he was downhill, so he could see my silhouette probably. And another guy who was closer came running in, and I'm on the radio. This guy jumped on top of me. And so my last words on the radio was, I guess I'm a POW now. Your heart's going pretty fast. I'm probably still on adrenaline and a lot of different things. You don't have a whole lot of time. I just wanted to stay alive and get home someday to my wife. And in fact, one of the important things, when they were trying to get my flight gear off, they wanted me just to be in a bare flight suit and flight boots. That's it. And they started taking everything off. Meanwhile, there are guns going off and other things, and there are other planes in the area all of a sudden. And I know that 2 A-7s were sent because as we were sitting there and they're taking off my things, and they all hit the ground. And then about 10 seconds later, explosions about 2 football fields away, two 82 bombs went off, and the chaparral from the barn sounded like rain falling on leaves. So it was close enough that I couldn't get away, but it was close enough that we suddenly scurried up the hill. And we went to the top of the hill, and they were starting to push me in an underground bomb bunker, and there was a 15.2 millimeter, was probably one of the anti-aircraft guns that shot at me. Traditional boom, 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 twin barrel, not twin barrel, single barrel. As they're pushing me down, here comes a Sikorsky CH-53, and behind it, there's red and white and black puffs trailing as the anti-craft is all trying to shoot down that helicopter, but he was so low they couldn't get their guns low enough, one, and two, they were shooting at them So when they shoot at them, the helicopter goes by and they're falling behind the helicopter. Little did I know that they went to the crash site, and before I got to Hanoi, part of the side paneling that said VF-143 had arrived in Hanoi, so they knew exactly what squadron and what kind of plane I was flying in.
So you spent a month in solitary confinement before you went to Hanoi Hotel?
No, I was captured on the 22nd. I arrived in Hanoi on the 7th of December, Pearl Harbor Day, for those who are history majors. And I was in solitary confinement to Christmas Eve. So from the time of capture to December 24th, a little over a month, I didn't have any roommate and all the rest. Yes.
How was that for you mentally, if you remember? Was that difficult?
Yes, it was. I'm very talkative and a social kind of person. So I had hours and hours of boredom, and then once a day they would let me go wash in the morning, and then they would call me back sometimes later in the morning or sometimes in the afternoon to interrogate me. And they were asking me military questions, particularly the difference in the F4s that I was in and the old F4s. I said, no, I was in an F4B, F4B. And they had just come out with F4Js. And the reason they had known there was a difference between the F4s is because the F4J had a pulse Doppler radar and a regular radar. So we could operate with a regular radar in certain conditions, particularly in ground mapping and other things. But when we're doing an intercept and we have an approaching vehicle with you'd have a high velocity closing, and that V sub C sometimes went over 1,000 miles an hour. So that's a big, and there would be a notch where your ground speed was. So in any case, that was what they saw the difference, and they were trying to figure out what the difference was because they didn't subscribe to U.S. News and World Report or the Aviation Weekly.
Yeah.
But in any
Okay,
case,
I'm going to ask you now a three-part question. So when you were a prisoner of war, how long were you a prisoner of war for? And then what enabled you to stay strong under those conditions? And then I'll come back to you with the third question.
okay. First and foremost, I was there 3 years, 4 days, no, 4 weeks and 6 days. And I think there were several things that helped me stay strong and resist the enemy. Number one, my family history and having a relative who was 15 years old and captured by the British in battle for New York City in the Revolutionary War, taken off and put on a prisoner of war ship, taken down the Newark in a ship that had been stuck in the mud, surrounded by mosquitoes. He got malaria. His weight went down. They thought he was going to die, so he was included in the next prisoner of war exchange.
I was just going to mention personal faith, right? That had to have played a part.
My family history, in a sense of history, but the most important things is the faith in my fellow prisoners of war and my family, faith in our country, and probably first and foremost, above all, is faith in God. And those three things formed like a tripod that leveled the playing field in a sense. And they could take everything away from me. In fact, they even took my wedding ring away from me. And I thought that was kind of severe, but in any case, it's just normal.
And
But
I'm
they
assuming
couldn't
assuming
take
you
my family or my faith in God, country, and my fellow POWs away.
that's an amazing perspective and quote that I was actually going to mention. So I'm glad you brought that up. How has that quote, that belief that you just said, guided your life and leadership following the rest of your life since then?
Well, several things. And I went to a religious boarding school, and the one song that I knew was our school song. We were St. Peter's, so we were the saints. And it wasn't when the saints come marching in, but it was Rise Up, O Men of God. And that's such an old hymn that the Naval Aviation Chapel uses that as a call to worship. Rise up, O men of God, have done with lesser things. Give heart and soul and mind and strength to serve the King of Kings. That's the original tune. But our headmaster changed it. So all four verses have a different kind of melody. For instance, the second verse, when it gets to the second two lines, it's, it goes to a minor key, bring in the day of brotherhood, and then this night of wrong. And the third verse goes, with Riley Lewis on the organ, a couple of organ things, the feet go, and rise up, O men of God, the church for you doth wait. Her strength unequal to her task, rise up and make her great. So that was the song that I sang in the shower every now and then. And when we had our reconnoiter to look over the gun tracking and all the rest for the day and a keg of beer at the Oak Club, somebody says, I want to know who got the chaplain and the men's chorus to come down and sing to us in the morning.
I want to ask you one more question, and then I want to go into some rapid fire questions to answer very quickly if you can. But I was curious if you think that you could briefly, in just a couple minutes, share the story that you shared at Toastmasters about the time that they brought the woman in and started singing, and you're looking through the peephole.
Well, I was singing a Christmas song, and they brought a jury that was not one person but three people, and I couldn't see them. And the guy kept running in and out of the room. What I didn't realize is there's not I didn't see the three people, and I couldn't see them. There was a door between us, but he kept running back and forth. And the three people turned out to be an AMP recorder, and they taped, and they had one on the old one. And what they did is they tricked me into singing along with the War Criminal Choir, and the song that they were singing is "Old Holy Night." And they were, when it came to the chorus, "Fall on Your Knees," they sounded terrible. The guitar was off turning. Everything was terrible. It was sour. And it was like, fall on your knees. So, man, I wanted to get my name out there. So I gave it my all. And by golly, they got it on the tape recorder. And the next day, when I had Ernie as my roommate, and I'm sitting in the prison system now, and they give us a Christmas meal, and after the Christmas meal, they come and they wash the dishes, and that goes away. And then there's kind of a siesta hour for the guards, and they put on the camp radio, and the camp radio was a recording of the Christmas Eve Mass at the downtown Roman Catholic Cathedral, the midnight Mass. And halfway through the service, the voice of the American, not the American, but the guy who speaks English, Vietnamese guy. He comes on and says, now we hear from the War Criminal Choir, "Oh Holy Night." And,
wow. That's awesome.
That off-tune guitar, and then there's this bright new voice. And before the singing was done, everyone was going, "Who's the traitor? Who's?" And I hadn't known that Admiral Stockdale, just 2 weeks before, given no tapes, no Christmas music, nothing. Don't say nothing, just say no. And here I had, but I didn't know that because I didn't have any access to the other prisoners, and so I felt, boy, Ernie said my face turned rose red.
I can imagine.
Mad and so embarrassed.
I can imagine. So my podcast is focused around leadership and resilience and service and purpose. So I want to ask you today, resilience is celebrated, but it's often misunderstood. Based on your journey, how would you define true resilience? In a short answer.
Keeping a cheerful and hopeful attitude in a time of desperation and real pain and suffering.
What advice would you give young leaders today, military or civilian, on maintaining integrity, purpose, and service in adversity?
Yes, and that's a big load, your mission and what you're here about, but you can't lose sight of your integrity. And someone once said, there's a difference between moral and ethical. And the ethical is doing what's right when no one's looking.
Absolutely.
And that's
integrity.
Really important. That's really important. Integrity is only something that comes with time and learning.
Absolutely. Thank you. Amazing answer. I'm going to ask you one more question. So reflecting on your life, obviously you wrote a book about your entire experiences called Patriot, Prisoner, and Survivor. From the cockpit to writing to speaking, what legacy do you hope to leave for future generations?
If I had to put my legacy into words, is something I have said sometimes to president of the Navy League or whoever introduces me as the San Diego Mac. I keep saying I was a hero, and I said, I understand, but you have to understand, I'm not a hero. I'm just a messenger. I wrote this book as a reporter. That first night, Admiral Stockdale, we didn't hear from him, but we heard from John McCain every half hour. And he wouldn't stop asking us sport questions. And finally, at 2:00 in the morning, we heard from Admiral Stockdale, McCain, go to sleep. That's a friggin' order.
Hold on. Can you touch on that? Can you touch on that really quickly? You said, so were you with John McCain? And if so, for how long? Did you have a relationship with him?
He was my next door neighbor for about 3 to 4 months, in my first 3 to 4 months. And he saved our butts several times. But in any case, I had Admiral Stockdale on one side of me, and then on the other side, John McCain. And we talked with our cups through the wall. So I was able to give him a better view of what was going on in sports, particularly in the NFL, which had the AFC and the NFC, not the American Football Conference and the National Football Conference, not two conferences, but they all merged.
What's your favorite team, Jim?
United States Navy Marine Corps.
Okay, there you go. That's a good answer. Okay, last final question here. What sustains you now? What gives you hope and a sense of purpose on a day-to-day level?
Well, I think it gave me hope at the time I was there, and through the years, several things. The 23rd Psalm, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. The Lord's Prayer. I cannot stress enough the spiritual aspect of living. You can't see it, you can't touch it, but it's there. And I hope my legacy would be that as much as I like to talk, I listen some too, and I spread the word of faith in God, faith in our country, and faith in our family and friends.
That's amazing. Well, it's clear to me, and I am so grateful that I met you, because you are definitely a leader, and it shows by writing your book. Like you said, you were a reporter. You're taking the attention off yourself and talking about others. I think that your faith in God and your ability to bring other people up and shine the light on others versus yourself, I think that makes you a very unique and great leader. So today, this is it for today, which is, I know, very short for you, because I know you could talk, and I love hearing it, but I'm just trying to get as much nuggets of wisdom out of you that I can for the viewers. So I appreciate you taking the time today, Jim.
My honor. Privilege to do it.
And I will be looking forward to having you back again.
Great. And as an old puking dog, I have to leave with one thing. ODF, old dogs forever.
Love it. All right, Jim, thank you very much. And God bless you.
Hey, welcome back, guys. What did I tell you? If that conversation doesn't leave you speechless in any way, I don't know what will. Commander Henry James Bettinger is the true definition of courage, faith, honor, service, leadership through adversity, resilience, and so many other things. It was an honor to be able to sit across from him, and I'm looking forward to hearing more of his story as we just scratch the surface. If you guys want to hear more about his story, make sure to grab his book called The Patriot, Prisoner, Survivor, and tune in for part 2 with Henry James Bettinger coming soon.